this emergency, well, it's an emergency, it is a council meeting in this section. We have two subjects to talk about tonight. One is related to insurance. We'll go over that last. We're going to start off with the declaration, emergency declaration that we have in place right now. So we'll discuss that in a second. I'm going to turn that over to Alan, if you don't mind, Alan, kind of lead the discussion a little bit. As everybody knows, the governor's office changed declaration again last night, and I've heard about 4 or 5 different versions of what it means. And so our job today is to take what his order says, and then also, since we're under the county, to look at the counties, and they did some revisions this morning, and so take theirs as well and see if we're going to make some changes. Before we do that, before we get that, I'm sorry, you ready to get going? I don't understand, Alan. But I want you to know that last night, Alan and Jason and I were talking about the biggest change that came from the governor was related to churches. And so because of that, I texted Kurt last night. He's the president of the Erath County Ministerial Alliance. Is that the right one? Stephenville. Well, I knew that you had Cowboy Church in there, so I assumed it was county. Stephenville Ministerial Alliance, and everybody on the council knows this. For those who don't know it out there, those guys pray regularly for us, and every time we meet, there's more than a handful of those on their knees praying for us, and I appreciate that very much. But we had a meeting this morning, a conference call with Kurt and some of his compadres, I'll use it that way, brethren they'll call them, and talked about how to affect this within the churches and what the church's perspective is. So I want you all to hear that before we go into considering the ordinance and what we might do. So Kurt, would you mind getting to the podium and just introducing and kind of talk about what we did this morning? I asked him to come prepare, just talk off the top of your head. It's okay.
Well, if I could, since we usually begin these things with prayer, can I take the liberty to do that? Let's pray for us. Lord Jesus, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for your many blessings, even in a difficult time. We can see your blessings through in all these different places, so many places, just so much good things we hear, even in difficult times. And so I just ask that you would give this council wisdom and guidance and discernment, and they would know things that they can't know on their own, and they would be able to see things into the future that maybe they can't see on paper, but you would just give them insight, Lord. We need your help. We need your direction, and I just ask for real peace to come over this city and over this council at this time. It's in your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, I do appreciate...
Yes, sir. Somebody said, call my name. Okay, I'll say, be sure to pull the mic down. Are you hearing him okay? Because what he's about to talk about is real important. Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, let me just read a prepared statement here. Mayor and City Council and leaders of our community, it is my honor to be here and speak as president of the Stephenville Ministers Alliance. As pastors, we take very seriously our calling to minister the words of God to those that listen to his voice. And just as all of us have been hindered by this pandemic in one way or another, so has the church. Our normal, comfortable ways of ministering have been stopped and inconveniences are abounding. But these costs are small compared to the larger items at stake. I would like to express my appreciation to our city and county leadership for the respect that they show the church and its ministries. I can feel the concern our leaders have for this great community, and so that makes my decisions easier to make. After talking with many of the pastors in town and seeking the direction from the Lord, it is my recommendation that we submit to our authorities of our city and county and continue to adhere to the practices of not gathering for worship services or Bible studies and to follow the guidelines the CDC has put forth. Some would say we have a right to gather and assemble, but I would say that we have a greater right to follow the voice of God in these unique times. As the people of God, we have a choice to make every day. Those choices we make reflect on the glory of our God. We have the choice right now to model what voluntary compliance looks like. Our leaders are asking us to comply with these safe practices as a responsible measure to try to ensure the safety of our community members. I believe that God is asking us to voluntarily submit to the authorities he has placed over us as an example of what an obedient child of God looks like. It is my advice and desire as leader in this community that all churches will accept the responsibility of leading by the submission that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ exemplified. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today.
If y'all have any questions, I just want to say that I don't know how many we're on the call this morning. How many do you think? Different congregations. There were about 12 people.
9 or 10, I believe.
Okay, 9 or 10.
Maybe 12.
Maybe 12. And a lot of them did speak, but many of them didn't. And at the end, I just asked, give me everybody speak up. And to a man, they all said the same thing. So anybody have any questions? That's going to be,
Mayor, does that mean they're going to social distance, or does that mean they're going to close?
they're going to recommend that they continue doing telemarketing, teleworship.
Yeah, that's our recommendation.
What we discussed this morning was there are some recommendations from CDC and the president about distancing, et cetera, and those kind of gatherings. And that the hardest thing to do would be to, how do you enforce that? I would hate to have to tell the chief, start going and walking in church buildings and stuff. And so they all agreed. Matter of fact, that didn't even discuss that really. Everybody was on the same page.
Yeah,
I appreciate that a lot.
I was very pleased that most of them were just to the
Immediate.
one. The term, we have a responsibility to protect the people of our community. And so, our community is sacrificing all around us. And it would look somewhat selfish to try to, we have a right to gather, and we're going to do that, and then maybe get infected and then take it out to someone else when they're trying to do their best. And so we just want to be responsible. And that was the word that kept coming up. We want to be responsible. And I appreciate that from the pastors in town.
Any questions? You're welcome to stay. You said that you might stay for the rest of it. You're welcome to do that and participate.
Thank you.
Okay, Alan. Back to you, as they say in the studio, back to you.
Well, so I'll just ask a question while he's doing that.
Sure.
It relates here. So in what the county presented today, number 6 of their list, religious and worship services may only be provided by video and teleconference. So that's what the county declaration contained. Now, so is there a way that the city of Stephenville could, because the county's prohibited it, can we, if the county has prohibited, we can't make ours any less restrictive than what the county's done, right? Even though the state is less restrictive than the county.
The governor's declaration, I'll ask Alan to speak to it in a minute, but the governor's declaration was that we don't have a lot of authority there. And so what the county did, I met with one of the commissioners an hour ago, maybe an hour and 50 minutes ago, and they did not address it that way, and probably have to come back and meet and talk about it. That was your understanding too, that they're going to have to come back and address it again.
I believe his order says that you cannot be more restrictive on religious.
Than what the governor says.
That's
So
what the governor
we're going to let
Okay.
Alan answer that question.
He may get right to it.
Yes, sir, I think I will. The executive, this is from the governor's executive order. This executive order shall supersede any conflicting order issued by local officials in response to the COVID-19 disaster. But only to the extent that such local order restricts essential services allowed by this executive order or allows gatherings prohibited by this executive order. I hereby suspend sections 418.1015B and 418.108 of the Texas Government Code, Chapter 81, Subchapter E of the Texas Health and Safety Code, and any other relevant statutes to the extent necessary to ensure that local officials do not impose restrictions inconsistent with this executive order, provided that local officials may enforce this executive order as well as local restrictions that are consistent with this executive order. So, the executive order, Mr.
McClinton.
McClinton, I'm sorry, my screen just went blue for some reason. The executive order does away with what the commissioners did this morning because it is more restrictive than the state order. And we are addressing that. That was going to be my opening sentence about.
Okay.
But I'll go back to it.
Well,
But
we can't be
yes,
more
sir,
restrictive than the
that's
state.
the
No.
governor's executive order does away, supersedes what the county did this morning.
But the governor's order does cross-reference CDC and the president's orders previously, which talks about distancing and some other things, but puts a lot of crimp in the actual application of that.
All right. Switching now.
Is this better?
Much better for her.
Okay.
Good. In the executive order GA 14,
Essential services shall consist of everything listed by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security in its guidance and on essential critical infrastructure workforce, version 2.0, plus religious services conducted in churches, congregations, and houses of worship. Other essential services may be added, and it goes on to explain where all this is. The next paragraph, in providing or obtaining essential services, people and businesses should follow the guidelines from the President and the CDC by practicing good hygiene, environmental cleanliness and sanitation, implementing social distancing, and working from home if possible. In particular, all services should be provided through remote telework from home unless they are essential services that cannot be provided through remote telework. If religious services cannot be conducted from the home or through remote services, they should be conducted consistent with the guidelines from the President and the CDC by practicing good hygiene, environmental cleanliness, and sanitation, and by implementing social distancing to prevent the spread of COVID-19. What we have done is we have made a draft of the proposed changes. I think you have it.
I don't have it.
Stacy, she had a copy for a minute ago.
In section 2, we've changed number 2 to say, in accordance with the executive order GA 14 issued by Governor Greg Abbott on March 31st, 2020, essential services shall consist of everything listed by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security in its guidance on on essential critical infrastructure workforce, version 2.0, plus religious services conducted in churches, congregations, and houses of worship. Other essential services may be added to this list with the approval of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, TDEM. TDEM shall maintain an online list of essential services as specified in this executive order and in any approved additions. Requests for additions should be directed to TDEM at essentialservices@tdem.texas.gov or by visiting www.tdem.texas.gov/essential services. We have mirrored the governor's language on number 2. If you look at number 6 on the next page, at the very bottom, we have added the statement, with exception of religious services as defined in section 2.2 that are held in compliance with section 2.8 of this order. Now, if you look down at 2.8, in accordance with Executive Order GA 14 issued by Governor Greg Abbott on March 31st, 2020, if religious services cannot be conducted from home or through remote services, they shall be conducted consistent with the guidelines from the President and the CDC by practicing good hygiene, environmental cleanliness, and sanitation, and by implementing social distancing to prevent the spread of COVID-19. That addresses church services exactly the way the governor has. If I may continue with the changes.
Please do.
In section 3, in the description, it says, for purposes of this order, individuals may leave their residence only to perform any of the following essential activities, and we've added access to any essential services defined by Executive Order GA 14. On section 9, number 9, meetings, we've added the sentence, all regular business meetings of the Stephenville City Council held on the first Tuesday of each month are suspended for the duration of this order unless called into session by the mayor of Stephenville. Under section 14, a person who knowingly or intentionally violates this declaration commits an offense punishable by a fine of not less than $50 nor more than $200 or confinement in jail for a term that does not exceed 180 days. We have added a sentence that upon a second violation of this declaration, the business who holds a certificate of occupancy from the city may have that certificate of occupancy revoked. That is, if we go out and warn them, educate them, and end up writing them 2 tickets, third time they get a ticket, third time they're out, they get a ticket and their CO is pulled.
If you ever remember, that's what the doctor panel recommended. That we had a pretty decent order and that we start enforcing it.
Those are the changes that we have proposed in the order that you guys passed last week. I do want to update you. We tasked Chief Harris and Steve Killen, our Development Services Director, to come up with an enforcement strategy. Effective yesterday, we are using an educate and sanction policy, meaning that if they get called out to say a residence and they have more than 10 people present, the officer will educate the folks, tell them why they're in violation and what this order says. And if they're called back, they'll receive a citation that can be $50 to $2,000 and jail term up to 6 months. If it's a business, the first time we get a complaint, we'll send Mr. Killen out, who is building services, used to be building services. And he'll go out, talk with them. Next time we get a call, the police department will go out and write a ticket to the person in charge, whether it's a plant, it would be the plant manager. If it was a store, it'd be the store general manager. And the next time they're called out, the police will go out, write the same person another ticket, and will revoke their certificate of occupancy, or we will be able to at that time. I think that's a fair enforcement strategy. We have, thanks to Chief Harris, we have a telephone squad, for lack of better terms, that are taking questions about the disaster declaration. They're taking the complaints. They're essentially sending the complaints either to the proper police section or to Mr. Killen. It's reduced the number of calls that we've gotten, or they've naturally reduced. And I just want to say thank you to Chief Harris and thank you to Mr. Killen for coming up with a great strategy on a very short notice.
As all of us, I'm sure on council get text messages as we're talking. One question came up, it's a good one. I think we also talked about adding a what if, kind of explanation back page to this at some point in the next few days. I've got one request is what if the family has 10 family members in the same household? How is the city going to apply that?
It's addressed. It'll take me a minute to find it. I think it specifically says, okay, I haven't made it there yet. Hang on a second. All right, 2.6, all public and private gatherings of any number of people occurring inside or outside a single household or living unit are prohibited, except as otherwise provided herein. Nothing in this order prevents a gathering of members of a household or living unit. A gathering is defined as an assembly or meeting, especially social or festive, or one held for a specific purpose. If the family's got 10 people, the family's got 10 people.
Okay. Well, that's just a question. I just want to make sure we got that out. Anybody have any questions for Alan?
So, again, I'm just looking at the governor's order from yesterday, and on that, his last whereas under section 418.173, there's a fine not to exceed $1,000, and in ours it's $2,000. So,
okay, we'll change it.
well, I'm not suggesting. I'm just. Is there a reason that
We
I think that's what we had in it originally, right?
we talked about it a couple of times.
I believe because it isn't a disaster declaration, or it is a disaster declaration, you can double the penalty up to a Class B misdemeanor from a Class C to a Class B.
Okay.
And traditionally, a Class B is a fine not to exceed $2,000 and 180 days in jail, or both. What I would recommend is that when a motion is made, that it is to amend the punishment section. What's the section? Section 14, to reflect the $1,000 fine as reflected by the governor.
Mark, will you carry that?
I will.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, I did have a question
Okay.
because I'm glad we're defining essential and non-essential, because last week I don't think we gave a definition for that, and I think businesses were confused. Yesterday, y'all, I think Jason and Alan were working on a list of essential and not. Do you have it down to exact businesses in town that you're going to be talking to, or?
No, ma'am, the governor took that away from us. He defined what essential businesses were.
Okay, so in the list I've looked at, for example, I'm just curious about some of these businesses. It says if you're working from home, that businesses that support working from home can remain open. So would Staples remain open because they're a support to, I'm confused about some of those businesses. I think it's a little ambiguous.
I believe the governor's, or the CISD 2.0, ESIW, defines essential retail. I think it, let me switch back to the governor's order and see exactly what it says.
Well, is that in this
Yes.
long one?
Yes.
No, it's,
I've just seen several of the orders that said if it allows you to work from home because it carries the products you need, that it's allowed to be open. And I don't know about the governor's order, but I've seen it in several orders. Did this come from the governor's office?
yes,
too?
ma'am.
Okay.
I believe they pulled that from Homeland Security.
Homeland Security, that's correct.
Did they?
Oh, are you talking about this one? I'm sorry, I was looking down.
Is
Yes,
this-
ma'am, that's the Homeland Security list that
And this is
is,
the one the governor's using?
that's referenced,
correct.
yes, ma'am. And I believe in it somewhere it talks about big box stores. That was, okay.
I've got a question regarding the essential services or essential businesses, whatever the wording the governor used was. I know this has been confusing for a lot of people, so I guess if you will just talk about what the governor's order actually says about that, and whether or not he actually ordered non-essential businesses closed.
He did not.
He did not.
He's,
And I understand our draft that you've given us is the same.
it does not
Does not
also.
order
That's correct.
non-essential businesses closed.
That's correct.
So we're not closing these businesses?
Absolutely not, no ma'am. All the governor did was define what essential businesses were.
So if we chose to close non-essential businesses, the governor has defined what that would be.
That is correct.
But we have not done that yet.
Have not, and we're not proposing that.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Can we add some restrictions to the local businesses that remain open? For example, I have a friend who is a smoker, and she uses the smoke shop on Washington Street, and she told me she called up there yesterday and she asked, could you do curbside service? And they could. So can we ask that those businesses or mandate that they go to curbside service or delivery like some of the other businesses have? So that we don't have, or can we limit how many people are in those businesses at a time like McCoy's has done with only 10 people in their business?
I'm not a lawyer, but I think you probably could.
I just say, somebody told me this morning that they were doing business with Sherwin-Williams. I think all of our businesses are adapting to help the community and to help the spread of this. And he had ordered paint several times from Sherwin-Williams this week. Every time he'd ordered online, And Sherwin-Williams is also doing curbside service. So a lot of the businesses are going to that anyway. So I think that it would be something we could strongly suggest at least.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, we have had a situation with a golf course in town. One of the alternatives that we sent you included golf clubs or golf courses. Rather than closing the golf course, if we could perhaps consider on the options for Stephenville, where it talks about golf courses. It says golf pro shops will be closed, golfers will check in outside, and staff will practice social distancing similar to grocery stores and markets to assist golfers. Flag sticks will be removed from the greens until further notice. Bunker rakes will be removed from the bunkers. Clubs and golf course will only be allowed one rider per cart and walking option if no carts are available. Carts will be sanitized after each use. All golfers will remain 50 feet apart at all times, no exceptions. Distancing requirements will be monitored by the golf professional to ensure compliance. Driving ranges and practice facilities will be closed. Golfers are not permitted to congregate at any time. Course lavatory facilities shall be sanitized every 30 minutes by the course staff. Both golfers and course staff are subject to penalties set forth herein to enforce this order. The distancing requirement for golfers shall apply to disc golfers and traditional golfers. I've been asked by Chief Harris and a couple of the other directors to suggest this to the council.
Where would you put that?
I would just add a number. Yeah, under the businesses closed.
Section 9?
No, that's a city facility. It would be under section 2. We would probably just add a section 10 to include golf courses. Section 2 is the one that talks about restaurants, microbreweries, and so forth. And
Did you take that one?
all businesses shall comply. I think we could create a number 10 there.
We'll take these amendments one at a time instead of like we tried the other day of all, we were all in agreement on the others. I want to make sure we do this individually. Yes, ma'am.
I sent that to you from Wichita Falls, but I don't know why they put 50 feet in when we're following, is it 10 feet on everything else?
6.
Six. I don't know why they did the 50 feet for the golfers when they're outside. I don't know. But
My guess would be that it's so you don't have 6 people playing on every hole, standing 6 feet apart.
I don't know. I just wondered why they did the 50 feet when we've been doing
yeah.
6 on everything else.
If everybody's in their own cart and they're staying 6 feet apart, that's
So you think 6 feet would be appropriate? I do.
I wouldn't have a
but-
problem with it.
Okay.
You're gonna make the motion, you'll edit that part of it then. Any other questions? Suggestions? Before we start doing amendments, is there something else to reference, or is this it at this point?
As far as I can recall, this is it.
Okay, before we go to actually making motions and
Hang on just a
amendments,
minute.
I'm gonna ask our medical director to come up, if you don't mind, Kelly. Would you come and give us your opinion and some input on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Would you go, yes.
we do have 2 other things, or just to
Okay.
point out. The county, in their declaration today, said that funeral services could be conducted so long as it was not more than 10 people and they were practicing social distancing, and it was the same for weddings. You could either be silent about that and just let the
county rule?
county rules, or you could add it into ours.
I'd recommend let the county handle it, said,
That's what I thought.
It's in, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the county. You're right. My bad.
Having all these orders is getting kind of
Yeah, it is.
confusing, so.
I just recommend let the county handle that. Is that all right with you?
And without doing anything, it does apply.
That's correct.
You said that was two. That one, those are the two items?
Those were the two
Okay.
items.
Dr. Dogger, would you come up to the microphone here and give us some feedback on what you think? Sure. Give us some insight, words of wisdom.
I would like to ask for a clarification. In section, let's see, what section is this? It's number 5. Section 2, number 5. It lists the businesses that are ordered to close, the one-on-ones, tanning salons, tattoo, body piercing, hair salons, barbershops, nail salons, massage parlors, massage activities ancillary to another business unless prescribed by a professional health care provider. I guess I could write you a prescription for a haircut, but that's not what I'm talking about.
You got your pen? I hope you have your pen with you. He needs a haircut.
So Section 5, that's all that's closed? That's all that we didn't close the bars, we didn't?
The governor did that.
Okay, all right, because I'm getting some questions on social media about that.
Yes, sir. The governor closed several businesses as well.
Okay, all right.
So section 7 of the governor's order is where it says what business?
Our section 7.
Our section 7.
Okay.
Would it be appropriate for us to just remove that, since the governor has also declared those same, well, with the exception of one of those, the governor has declared those same businesses closed. I believe with the exception of tanning salons.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I just want to let the council know that the medical community is overwhelmingly in support of the measures that you've taken so far to mitigate the transmission of COVID. I know we had a workshop yesterday, and we had a good exchange of information, good dialogue. There were 4 physicians here, and there were some differing opinions, which is either here nor there. I'm not here to disparage anybody's opinion. In fact, I appreciate everybody taking time away and coming and speaking. Had a good, respectful exchange of dialogue. But don't let the small sample size fool you. We as physicians are overwhelmingly in support of what's been done so far. I mean, we can do more. We're on the right path. I don't know. Do we still have any doubters? You know, we've got cases 6 and 7 today. We're still on the front end of the curve. It's going up. I've presented my opinions, and people have asked, why do we listen to Dr. Doggett? Why don't we listen to CDC and TDH? So I've referenced TDH and CDC. I've referenced Dr. Joel Massey, who's our regional director. He worked at CDC for years before he accepted his position he's in now. He actually was on the epidemiological investigative team. He's got a lot of experience. I've referenced him. I've referenced CDC. I've referenced the Imperial College of London and their models. Basically, mathematics are on our side. When I say ours, I mean the actions we've taken. Statistics and epidemiology are on our side. Texas Department of Health agrees with what we're doing. CDC agrees with what we're doing. I won't name all the doctors because I haven't spoken to everybody. I don't have everybody's contact information. Miranda Nash agrees with what we're doing. Jeff Moore agrees with what we're doing. Got this from conference call. Our EMS director, Marilyn Brister, agrees with what we're doing. Ben Markham not only agrees, thinks we need to do more. Linda Heflin agrees with the measures we've taken so far. You know, some of this is taken out of your hands by the governor's actions, which, you know, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you he was going to do that, and no matter whether he called it shelter in place or not. We appreciate what has been done, and we can do more. We can look back at history, at the pandemic of the Spanish flu in 1918. We can look at what Philadelphia did, and we can look at what St. Louis did. I want to be like St. Louis. You know, when Philadelphia's outbreak occurred, they had a parade. And 14 days later, when they took action, it was too late. St. Louis, when the outbreak occurred in St. Louis, they immediately took action similar to what we've done. Put people off the streets, shelter in place, kept people apart. And anybody can Google that and read about that. I won't bore you with the details, but needless to say, it didn't turn out well for Philadelphia. So I commend the actions that we've taken so far. It's difficult. I wouldn't want to be sitting in any one of your seats, but I think we're on the right path. I mean, there's no doubt that some physicians are speaking about herd immunity, and it will play a role. But even those with that position will tell you herd immunity is not going to get us through the next 3 months. You know, it may help us next year or the next year. But I want to keep as many people alive as we can while we're getting that herd immunity. An acceptable number of deaths in Stephenville for me is 0. I don't want anybody to suffer while we're building our herd immunity. But basically, that's my position in a nutshell. I think you're on the right path. You got a difficult job. It's a thankless job for the most part. You get a lot of criticism. I want to give you some praise. I want you to realize that you've got the overwhelming support of the medical community from this area to back you up, and we're here for you. Other physicians have asked to take part. I know they're ready to do their part, and I'm hoping that I can arrange some more feedback from some of those. I'd like for people to hear a different voice besides mine. You know, it may be kind of ringing hollow because I say the same thing over and over and over and over. You know, which is basically listen to me. So I know that rings hollow, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I'm here at your beckoning anytime you need me.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
I just want to mention that. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say the better line is, can you hear me now?
Yeah. We remember that commercial. First thing is we are going to have more town halls, like we did with the two chiefs and Jason and Alan, and we'll have more of those, and we plan to have some of those conversations with more doctors available on the panel to ask those kind of questions, because we have a good format to do that in. As a matter of fact, our meeting that we held on Monday, I think, set a record in Stephenville for Facebook views. We had 15,000. It went up since I heard last. We had 17,000 people that either watched live or watched the video, the recorded part of it. Now, surely some of those probably timed out, so they had to re-log in and some other things, but let's assume it's 10,000 or more. In a county of 42,000 or so, in cities 20,000, that's a huge viewing, and it shows the interest of the citizens. Some of that is they want to see what we're doing. Are we doing the right thing? Because they want leadership. What are we going to do? But they're also interested, I'm sure, because a lot of folks are scared, as a lot of folks are. I mean, listen to the doctors. Every one of them said, I worry about getting the disease myself. And so, Kelly, I really appreciate your input. The other thing is, I just want to mention, and I was looking at Facebook, I think it's actually Carla, this Facebook post, that had a picture of that 1918 newspaper clipping. I think it was on yours. I mean, you may have reposted it. Was that the Spanish flu? And it was actually a declaration from a county or a city that said, everybody stay inside, shelter in place. There's a little article like that. So if you haven't seen that, look it up on Facebook. So even back to 1918, that was the answer. You know, we can fix a lot with medicine, but exposure is the biggest issue. Keep your exposure away. But the last thing is the city and the county have agreed to go into partnership and assist the community of Stephenville by purchasing some equipment. We actually went out there. I contacted Senator Fallon last night and spoke with him at length this afternoon. And it was like a horse in a race, in the cage, ready to get out. I said, sick 'em. And he jumped out. And if y'all know Pat Fallon, Senator Fallon, he's going to rattle some cages. Because I told him, I said, there's 20,000 people wanting these devices, and they're making 100 a day or something like that. And so I said, we're going to need some political clout, and would you do that? And he agreed to do that wholeheartedly. So he's out there helping us find it. And so the city and the county have merged and agreed to help fund or pay for the device. There's another option besides the first one, the Abbott lab thing, is another possibility. So we've just told basically the Stephenville Medical Surgical Clinic, get the device, we'll help fund, we'll pay for it. So we're partnering with the community of Stephenville, and I spoke with Alan about that last night or not before. I can't remember which. This is Thursday. No, this is Wednesday. Okay, that's right. That's what the problem is. And he jumped right in the middle of me. He says, I can do that with my credit card. So we're going to help get that done if we can get one in the city of Stephenville. So that's good. I think that the Stephenville Medical Surgical Clinic actually has been in contact with a latter piece of equipment supplier. We just don't know when or whatever's going to come. So we're working hard with this, with the current medical community. We use them because they're the one that test the most. And so we thought it'd be a good place to put it. So, yes, sir. Come on up. We need your input.
And I'm actually in discussions with the clinic as we speak for a collaborative effort, and we're trying to work something out where they can test my patients. I don't have the PPE. I don't have the number of tests, so that might be something. I'm kind of speaking out of turn without talking to the president, Miranda Nash.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe some of the other physicians could collaborate as well.
I think it'd be a great idea. I'm sure that Brenda would be happy to hear that. As a matter of fact, the administrator, her name is, do you remember Alan? My wife knows her real well. I'm sorry, Cheryl, and I forgot the lady's name.
Her last name is Sanchez.
Sanchez. Jenna. And she's more than happy to help do that, because we put some other contingencies on there. We want to make sure that if a peace officer gets exposed, that he gets it right away, that kind of stuff, to make sure that our first responders are able to go right back to work as quick as possible. So, was there another question?
I just want to clarify, because there's been a lot of questions I've got asked, and it's kind of to Carla's point earlier. The governor's orders do not allow us to do any further restriction on grocery store, big box retail, correct? As far as social distancing guidelines that we talk about. That's the way that I understand it.
That's the way I understand it as well.
The suggestion, and I believe the governor's point was, there were some places that were doing the one person per family going shopping and things like that, and that has been mandated by the governor that we can't do that.
Do you see where it is in his order that we can't do that?
I don't think his order addressed it, did it? Yeah.
I think because it says that essential services must just abide by the guidelines set forth by the federal. That
Which has
takes care
social
of it.
distancing.
That is the social distancing
Correct.
portion.
I think that takes care of it.
Because it's the essential part. So unfortunately for some of those people that want that, we're just going to have to rely on each other, like we're going to have to do on so much of this stuff, to be responsible when we go to those places and take action into your own hands, which we all should do anyway. So
I think
wanted to
the-
get some clarification out there.
I think the
for people.
stores can establish those policies. We just can't mandate
Private
it.
business can do whatever they want.
Correct.
You know, like we've had some that have decided to close down or take further measures, and I thank them for that. A lot of these rules are for the ones that don't, of course, as we're all, but I think I wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody. That's the reason we can't do this stuff like this.
Well, and to go a bit further, because seeing the comments on Facebook, his order supersedes ours. So he's closing down what we closed down last week, which is the beauty shops and the tanning salons, and he'd already closed massage parlors, barber shops. The governor's order closes those things down. And so I was confused last week. We didn't close down any other non-essential businesses, and his does not close down any non-essential businesses either, except for what he specifically stated were closed down. There seems to be some confusion about that.
You agree with that, Jason? Alan?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry, I was asking a question.
Everybody's getting Facebook and text messages. You want to answer that, or you're answering on Facebook? Okay. So,
I was texted by a local business.
okay, do you want to answer that on, so everybody can hear? Maybe Germany, everybody.
I think you misspoke, and you said we are not closing businesses. However, the state order does close non-essential, right? My response, no, sir, it doesn't. It just covers essential businesses. And then I said, just read that quickly again, it only closes what's already been closed.
Anybody else have anything they want to ask?
I've got a couple
sir.
of questions.
Ask.
If I understand our order correctly, our parks and rec system is basically closed,
Except for the trails, right?
Correct.
except for the trail.
No, sir.
The trail is closed also, okay?
When did we close the trail? Because I asked that question before and it was open, as long as you social distanced. I asked that question last week.
Okay. Okay, I made a mistake. You're right. It is not closed, the trails.
Okay. Part of our intent is to encourage people to do outdoor activities and just maintain their social distancing. I was asked why the golf courses remain open and yet our parks are not.
Yes, sir. We don't own a golf course, or it would be closed.
No, but the question was, why are you closing city facilities when privately owned facilities remain open?
Because it's in the best interest of the citizen, the health and safety of the citizens of Stephenville, Texas, if we close our parks.
Okay? And their contention will be, my yard's not big enough for my family and I to all walk and maintain the distancing that we should, see our friends and visit. I'm not an advocate for that, don't misunderstand me, but that's one of the positions that people have taken to provide them an opportunity to get some outdoor activity and some exercise and hopefully be able, because of the larger spaces, to maintain that social distancing that we're requesting of them.
Yes, sir. I can't argue that, Mr. Nix. However, we've heard our physicians this week explain the necessity of social distancing. As I drove past the new trail the other day, I saw a group of folks that were not exercising social distancing, and I would suspect that's the rule rather than the exception.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
So just to add that, so you talked about maybe including some of the language about golf courses,
Yes, sir.
and in that it says it also applies to disc golfers.
Yes, sir.
So if we put that in there, is there another disc golf course in the city of Stephenville other than the one at the city park?
Not that I'm
That
aware
might
of, sir.
add confusion if the parks are actually closed, and,
Yes, sir. It's probably best to leave that out.
okay,
Will you take that, Mark?
I got it.
Anybody else? Gerald, do you have any questions? I've been looking around the left to right. I keep forgetting to look up top to you. Questions? Okay. Do I have motions? And what you're wanting is us to use the existing ordinance and make those two amendments, of which one of them we changed one of them at the golf course situation.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what the recommendation is. Let me ask one question. The declaration is good through when?
This is a declaration, I believe, April 15th at 11:59 p.m.
I know that things change rapidly, and matter of fact, hourly sometimes in this issue. Would everybody be okay with until either the declaration has changed, the governor is no longer, or declared it's no longer an emergency, or that we, because obviously I can call as long as we're under the governor's order, call us back into session within an hour. And if you all have heartache over something or a need to do something, I'll be happy to call that meeting within an hour, other than if it's after midnight. I don't know, Jason, you come up here.
Just a question.
Yes, sir.
Did the governor's order as well as the county order go through April the 30th?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
So would you recommend that then?
I would.
The president's recommended because he had this 30 days to bend the curve, is where that comes from. He had 15 days and it didn't work, so now we're doing 30 days.
I think honestly, if you do anything other than the April 30th, you're going to confuse folks.
So you recommend April 30th, is that
Certainly
okay
do.
with everybody?
I agree.
Okay, can I get somebody to make that motion on the amendment?
So I just want to clarify, because what we're doing here, since this is dramatically different than what was in place last week, we're actually amending the declaration from last week, or are we passing this as a new declaration?
We're amending, I thought.
That's a really good question.
I
We
would
make the-
recommend that y'all make a motion to accept this, and then do like we did last time,
And then amend the-
motion with
Yes.
mention-
changes that we discussed
Yes.
that weren't on here.
I
Okay.
agree with Stacy. I think it's cleaner if you
Brandon?
go ahead and approve
Brandon,
all
can you
of
do
the
that?
changes.
Make the motion to pass this with, and then we'll go to amendments after that. A
Mr.
motion is-
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we pass this as presented with the golf course, the included, and the date of April the 30th as the ending time.
I suppose we can do all those at one time, technically, I guess.
Well, we can't. It's a lot easier than all that confusing amendment stuff.
Is there,
Well, we had a couple other things that needed to be
Yeah,
amended.
there's several
too.
things that'll be amended.
yeah, two more things besides that.
Need to
Okay.
include the fine.
Yes,
also.
sir.
The fine.
Yeah, the fine.
And the fine.
Yes, sir.
We do the fine.
Right, but that'll be an amendment too.
Yes.
I think you need, did we get a second?
Okay, so we have a motion, and we need a second for,
I'll second.
so Gerald makes a motion and Carla seconds it. Now, then we'll go at this point, do we have any amendments? We have a motion, a second, so right, we got amendments now, right? I'll make sure we do this right.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to amend or offer an amendment for section 14. And I would like to change the not more than 2,000 to not more than 1,000. And the reason for the change would be to reflect the language in the governor's executive order.
Second that.
Mark makes a motion to amend the 2,000 to 1,000 to be consistent with the governor's order, and Alan seconded it. Discussion. Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same time opposed. Thank you. So motion, that amendment is now going to go to the final vote on the first thing. I have another amendment.
Do we need an amendment for the golf course just to clarify the exact wording on that? Okay. I would offer amendment to add the section 10, restrictions on golf courses, that golf pro shops will be closed, golfers will check in outside, and staff will practice social distance. Similar to grocery stores and markets to assist golfers, flag sticks will be removed from greens until further notice. Bunker rakes will be removed from the bunkers. Clubs and golf courses will only allow one rider per cart, and walking as an option if no carts are available. Carts will be sanitized after each use. Each golfer will remain 6 feet apart at all times, no exceptions. Distancing requirements will be monitored by golf professional to ensure compliance. Driving ranges and practice facilities will be closed. Golfers are not permitted to congregate at any time. Course lavatory facilities shall be sanitized every 30 minutes by course staff. Both golfers and course staff are subject to penalties set forth herein to enforce this order. And that would be the end of that section.
Second.
Have a,
Well, did you take the?
Yes, I left that last
Okay,
one.
all
Yeah.
right.
okay, so I have a motion by Ricky and Alan. You second that? Further discussion. Let's proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same time
Aye.
opposed. Thank you. That motion will be, or that amendment will go to the full discussion. Is there any other, are there any others?
we don't need to do the enforcement of CO. That's included.
Yes, sir, we should.
That's a good point.
It's included in the original motion.
It's included.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Any others?
And Gerald's motion included
Gerald
the date.
He had the
included
date in the
date.
motion.
And Gerald included that in his date. Okay, any others? Hearing none, what we're now going to vote on is the proposed order declaring local state of disaster due to public health emergency with the amendments that have been approved. Any further discussion about that? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. So we now have a new declaration and effective tonight at midnight. Tonight at midnight. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate y'all's input a lot. This has been, I'm sure you've gotten as many calls, emails, text messages, and recommendations. Dr. Goggett, thank you for coming today. It's our pleasure. We have one more item.
Just
Jump.
one more thing to say. I don't do social media. I don't have social media. I have a Facebook page, but I don't even know how to log into it. But I do. But I do have a phone, and I get text. Since I blurted out that we had case number 7 today, people won't know if we have community spread. Officially, after investigation from Texas Department of Health Services, yes, we have community spread. We also have 1 death. So.
And we weren't notified there was a 7th.
It just happened.
It just happened.
Yeah, it's
Just before the meeting.
Just for
we had 6 and 7 within the last few hours. So.
One of the things I'll just make an announcement. Visit with Alan and Jason. We're going to put up a web page. Were you able to buy that domain? And content. That's a lower priority. But what we're going to do, a bunch of citizens have been asking for updates like that information. So we're going to do that. We're going to either append our web page. You'll probably end up having to do it. Append our web page. That'll have another domain, probably Stephenville TX, whatever, Corona or something like that. I already said that, and someone's not gone out and bought it. I shouldn't have said that part. But anyway, we're going to have a post, and so Alan will task somebody in the city staff to make sure we keep that updated for how many tests there are, how many people have tested positive, negative, etc., how many people are outstanding, and any other information for the citizens. It'll be a good public service that we'll do. Okay, anything else about coronavirus? Let's just kick it in the teeth and get on the next subject, then. Let's hope. Keep praying, sir. We have one other agenda item, that is the insurance policy. Turn that over. Where's Monica?
We'll need to recess this meeting and call to the.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. That's fine. Thank you very much. We're going to adjourn the special council meeting. Recess. Okay, gotta get the right words here. Okay, we're going into the public because we're going to recess the regular city council meeting, and we're going to come back in and call to order the employees benefit trust meeting, of which we're all members. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Monica, for being patient with us.
We ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so for our healthcare plans, we're recommending that we offer 2 plans. Currently, the city has 3 plans. There's the top tier plan that has like a $1,500 deductible and it has copays. There's what we consider the base plan, which has a $3,000 individual deductible and it has copays. And then there is a HSA plan that has the same $3,000 deductible, I believe, but it's just an HSA. What we're recommending now is that we switch to just the 2 plans, the base plan and the HSA plan that we currently have. And the employees that are on the top plan, the $1,500 deductible, they can choose to go to either one of those plans. People that are currently on the base plan can stay on the base plan or go to the HSA. What we had done last year is any new employees had to go on the HSA. So basically, if you're on the HSA plan now, you have to stay on the HSA plan. If you're on the other 2 plans, you can only go to the HSA plan or the base plan.
Sorry. Randy, turn your speaker off.
The other thing that we're recommending is there is a premium difference of $34.53 per month between the base plan and the HSA buy-down plan. We're recommending that we do the same thing as last year, that amount, which equals about $414 a year, automatically get funded into HSA plans, health savings accounts for those on the HSA plan. We're also recommending that an additional $600 be contributed to those amounts as well. That would give a total of $1,014 as an incentive for people to switch over to the HSA plans. Because remember, with HSA health savings accounts, those do not expire like the flex plans do. That money is yours, it stays yours. Even when you leave, it's still yours, and as long as you use it on eligible medical expenses, it's never taxable to you.
And the additional 600, is that what we did last year?
We actually did a total of 1,300 last year. By doing the total of 1,014, if everybody that was currently on the HSA plan stayed on it, and then all the people that were on the other two plans just went to the base plan, that would put us at our 1.2 million that we had chosen as a threshold for medical and dental expenses a couple years ago. If we have, I think it's an additional 25 people sign up for the plan, that would put us at about $15,000 over that. Last year, when we made the decision to go up to the 1,300, it made our cost at $1,233,000. So it bumped it up about $33,000 above.
You may have any questions?
Monica, if I'm looking at the memo right, there's a discount offered if we use the two plans that y'all are recommending, and it would be a higher discount if we only offered one plan. If we offer all three plans, the existing plan and the two alternatives, do we still receive a discount, or does that take the discount away?
No, we still receive the discount. They were offering us a 2% discount regardless. If we go to one plan, they would bump it up to a 4% discount. If we were to keep all three plans, we'd have to rework the numbers a little bit because that other plan is quite a bit more, expensive.
It wouldn't change the discount, but the overall numbers would be different.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because it is a more expensive plan.
I'm really struggling with that because you're taking away a plan that we have a number of our employees on and doubling the out-of-pocket expense, the deductible for them and the out-of-pocket expense both. And in my mind, at least, this is not a good way to say to our employees that we appreciate what you do and that you're valuable to us. All we're interested in is saving money, because that's the benefit from changing from the existing plan to one of these other plans, is it saves the city more money. And I don't believe in wasting taxpayer dollars, don't misunderstand me, but at some point you have to look at our employees and say, you too are a citizen, you too are valuable to us. And these people that are on this plan have chosen to stay on that plan, is that correct? Instead of opt into one of these others?
That was the option last year. Yes, they could choose to stay on the plan.
Okay, and if they choose to stay on the plan again, we could still offer the same option by offering all three plans, correct?
Yes, we could.
Okay, that's just my concern. Our employees sometimes take it on the chin because in our effort to be good stewards and to save money, sometimes we do so at their expense, and that concerns me when we look at it that way.
Monica, what happens with the savings the city's made? What do we do with those savings?
Well, we're actually not having any savings.
We're giving it back to the
What
employees.
we're doing is we're putting it back into the HSA plan. So there actually is no savings to the city or the taxpayer. It's just those people that are willing to go onto the HSA plan and take that risk, so to speak. They get more money put into their health savings account to cover that first $3,000 that they would be out of pocket. And so the idea when we talked about this a couple of years ago, because if you remember, this came up a couple of years ago, and we've been telling employees that we were going to go to an HSA plan, knowing that we would help contribute into those plans so that people could build up and have that 3,000 out of pocket eventually built up into that health savings account. When we decided to do that, it was with that understanding. So we're not really saving the taxpayers or the city any money. It's just kind of how we allocate the expense.
Y'all remember a couple of years ago when we first started this transition, that 2% change at the bottom was a positive number. I think one year it was 6% or 7%, and creating some structure that incentivized people, and we gave all the incentives back to the employees, incentivized them to use other options, telemedicine, etc. And we've got a couple other options in here which they can even get more than what this cost us. They could carry the Fitbit kind of thing and get that $1 a day, up to $3 a day, etc. It's really a benefit. And what happened was, I remember when, I can't remember what the two ladies' names are that came to the meeting, the insurance folks. One of them said, "Wow, I've never seen this." I mean, we have done it, like we're talking about the coronavirus, it has bent the curve. And he said, "This is great." He said, "Your utilization is so much better." So the question is, we have a group of individuals whose, if you look at the utilization, that's where the big part of the utilization is, the part that causes the overall cost of our plan to go up. And the other part of it is, I think that's, I don't say how to say it's important. One of the things I'm going to recommend is that there is some money that what's the plan called? The money, where the money's stuck right now,
That's, well, right now we also have the Simply Engaged plan.
I'm talking about the pot of money that we had. There's
well, it's the employee trust.
Employee trust. That we come up either out of that fund, if it's okay to do that, legally to do that. We think it is. If not, to create a pot of money and give a discretionary amount of money to Alan, to when Cheryl comes in and says, "I have employee X who has a bill," because there were some things about, there was one employee that had $7,000 medication a month. Per month, but at halfway through the second month meets her out-of-pocket maximums, etc. So I don't even know if it was a her, I said her, it could have been him. And so in that we give Alan a discretionary amount of money that he can spend up to X number of dollars per request brought to him by Cheryl, and says, here's somebody that just can't do this, especially if they're in that top plan. We reduce some of that we might help them with some of those things financially. And that's going to be my recommendation in the budget process as we go through that coming forward. You want to say anything about that, Alan?
I will probably appoint a committee because I don't want my house burned down.
I wouldn't mind if it's a committee or you, but you're going to sign the document.
Also, with your concern about the deductibles and the out-of-pocket, last year we had 16 of our, I won't say employees, our subscribers. Only 16 of them met the out-of-pocket. And only 2 of those were on the $1,500 deductible plan. So, well, not out-of-pocket, deductible. So only 16 met that, 14 met the 3,000 deductible, and only 2 met the 1,500. So all in all, when you sit down and you look at our utilization, there is not a whole lot when you figure. I think we've got 200 and something on the subscribers on the plan. The percentage of people that are actually meeting that deductible is very small. That's why we're thinking. And
that was why we talked about this money that if he needs it, he can use
right.
that. So we could put 15,000, 20,000, and probably get through the year of that.
So if you're not meeting your deductible, let's say you're spending $500 a year, making $500, 5 office visits. If we are giving you $1,400 and you're just, because remember, your wellness checks,
free.
Your preventative care are all free no matter which plan you're on. So all of that's going to be covered just like it normally would. So if you're just, going to the doctor 5 times a year for a cold or whatever else, and you're spending that $500, well, that's covered by the $1,400 we're going to give you. Plus, you've got $900 more that you can go in and save for future and eventually build up. Plus, the employees can also put into that HSA account themselves, like some of them already do on the Flex account. The difference is the Flex goes away if you don't spend it. You lose that money. Another part of the HSA plan that we're looking at switching to, we're asking, y'all to vote to let us do it, is instead of having the Simply Engaged, where you can get up to $200 in gift cards for doing things like doing the biometric screening, doing a checking prices before you doing surgery or whatever, just those kind of things, is they have a motion. And so employees can earn up to $1,095 a year to go directly into their HSA account. The city don't pay for it. It's the insurance company that does. So you can earn up to $3 a day. It's like $1 for walking more than 10,000 steps in a day. It's $1 for 3,000 in an hour, and then also doing like 300 steps in 6 times a day, and they have to be an hour apart. So you can earn up to potentially $1,095 additional on top of what we would be putting in. So that, if you're determined enough, in a year you can have, $1,500 or $2,500 put in there that would help you apply to your $3,000 deductible. Yeah, the 1,014 goes into the HSA. We're recommending that we make those contributions quarterly in advance, because last year we did have some employees that they got the $1,300, right up front. I think we missed those. It's not a $1,400, it's $1,000 14, I believe, isn't it?
1,014.
Yeah, and so, but the $1,300 we paid last year, there were some people that got them, and in a couple months they terminated their employment, and they, just got to keep all that money. By paying it quarterly in advance, if somebody does leave, they're only getting maximum a quarter. Plus, it also is a little bit more fair to new employees that comes on after they've been here a little while. They start getting that, and that helps them to have some of that money available to them for their deductibles or paying their doctor visits in full.
Anybody else?
I say to that, just on your bottom line sheet there, Monica, your comparison page, the last part of it, tell me how you're dealing with the vacant positions now.
We're treating them as if they're full and they're on the HSA plan, and so getting the contributions. So we have current 8 vacancies, and so we've calculated them in just like as a new employee that they would come on and we would pay the HSA part of the deductible plus the 1,014.
Okay.
Anybody else? So we need a motion for the employee trust to recommend this to full council.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mark.
Second.
And a second by Ricky. Further discussion. Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed.
No.
Okay, motion passes. That's it for the employee trust. Is that correct, Stacy? Okay, I'm going to adjourn the employee trust meeting, and we'll enter back into city council. Do I hear a recommendation?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the employee health care plan as it's been presented and recommended from the trust.
You have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed.
No.
Okay, motion passes. Anything else on the agenda, Stacy?
That's it, sir.
Having no other agenda items, we're going to stand adjourned, and I want to say to staff, thank you. You guys are kicking, you know what. Thank y'all very much.